You're listening to Plane Crash, the book by Michael Diamond as retold to the kids of the Watertown SDA Church Junior Sabbath School. This is a story of one man's survival and God's faithful, miraculous rescuing power. Let's go. As Mike climbed, he called Oakland Flight Service and opened his flight plan. It was 2:30 p.m. This time Mike was not cheated out of his view of the bay as he had been the night before by darkness. It was breathtaking. 2499 Juliet, a call crackled over his radio. That's me, Mike realized. This is 2499 Juliet, Mike responded. Go ahead. You filed a 5-hour flight plan with only 3 hours of fuel aboard, but you didn't file a fuel stop. My refueling stop will be at San Luis Obispo. As Mike flew over the Golden Gate Bridge, he saw a huge cargo ship sailing under the graceful bridge. The day was clean and clear. Banking south and heading down the coast, Mike set his receiver to a VOR frequency from his chart, using the same frequency he used coming up. But it didn't work. Oh no, it suddenly dawned on him. These headings won't work. All the frequency headings had to be refigured in the opposite direction on the previous day's flight. Having never plotted a there and back again cross-country trip before, but only circular routes, Mike had thought the course already plotted on the chart would work both ways. How could I have thought of that, he chastised himself, but of course he hadn't thought of it at all. He had never had occasion to. Later, other flight instructors told Mike that before signing a student pilot off for a cross-country solo, an instructor is required to check the student's charting for the entire trip. But Elaine checked only the first leg of Mike's cross-country, not his return leg. It is critical that a flight instructor check a student's charting for the entire route. Flight training is a learning experience, and if required steps are left out, a student may not be learning them. Oh, I wish I could fly back to Novato, Mike worried. Then I could refigure all of my headings and start out earlier tomorrow morning. But Elaine needs the plane. If I kept it overnight, she couldn't use it for her students. She would lose money. A plane's rental charge is based on time in the air, not on time spent sitting on the ground. Mike knew Elaine was operating on a shoestring budget, and that was why her rates were going up over the weekend. I'd better continue, Mike decided. He spread his chart out over the tiny cockpit to refigure the frequencies and compass headings. He was still climbing. He passed near Palo Alto. He also had to refigure his time from each VOR station and how long it would take to reach San Luis Obispo for refueling. When he finished, he was nearing Half Moon Bay and flying over Santa Cruz. I'll never make it to San Luis Obispo by 5 o'clock when the pumps close, he realized. I'll refuel at Monterey instead. So he slipped his plane between the hills and landed at the small airport. Sure is getting late, Mike thought as the gas attendant fueled the tanks. Almost 5 o'clock and I have more than 3 hours to go. I'll call Elaine to see if I can just stay here one night and come in the morning. Hey, Mike asked the attendant, where's the payphone? Over there, the man answered. I hope she'll tell me to stay up here. Mike ran to the phone. Where's her phone number? He found it in his wallet. His heart began to sink as Elaine's office phone rang on without answer. I'll try her home phone. He dialed the new number. Hello, said a woman's voice. Elaine, this is Mike. No, it's Terry. Terry was Elaine's partner in the flight school. Elaine is not here. May I help you? Yeah, I'm getting a late start back. I'm worried about time. I'm thinking about staying up here another night. Terry was silent. I know the plane's reserved tomorrow for another student, right? Yes, she replied. We do need the plane. Okay, which way would save me more time, the coast or the inland route? I don't know which way is fastest, answered Terry. Use your own judgment. It's getting pretty late, Mike continued. I'm not checked out for night flying yet. Use your own judgment, she repeated. It's nearly 5 o'clock, Mike thought to himself. From what I've told her, she thinks I'm still north of San Francisco, yet she still wants me to fly down today. They must really need the plane tomorrow. Okay, I'll fly down today and take the coastal route. Fine, she responded. See you tonight. Once Mike decided to go ahead and finish the trip, the matter was settled. I'm going home. He went back to the fuel pump, signed the gas receipt, and climbed aboard the plane. He taxied down the runway and took off. As he cleared the runway and began his climb, he glanced down to see Monterey nestled among the dark, twisted pine trees along the ocean. The previous year, Anne, Louise, and Mike had driven through the same area on California Highway 1, the twisting route that snakes along the coast of California. They took many pictures of one another with the ocean as a backdrop that time. I wish she were here with me now and could see this, Mike thought as he banked his plane south along the coast. Mike was still climbing when he tried to contact the Oakland Flight Service to let them know he had changed his fuel stop. Oakland Flight Service, this is 2499 Juliet, do you copy? No answer, just static. Oakland Flight Service, come in. Again, no response. He was too far out of radio range for them to pick up his call. But he was also too inexperienced to realize that this was a problem and that he should try another flight service station. Oh, at least I have plenty of fuel to make it home, he thought. Chapter 5. Use your own judgment. Terry's words lingered in Mike's mind as he flew over Carmel. As late as it was, his best judgment was to try to make the best time possible so he'd at least arrive in familiar territory before dark. And one way to save time was to maintain maximum speed. I'll make a gradual ascent to 2,000 feet along the coast, and I'll bank inland at Morro Bay and continue climbing to around 5,500 feet. Climbing steeply all at once takes longer than climbing gradually. Making a plane climb into the sky is much the same as making a car climb a mountain. The steeper the climb, the slower the car goes. Even stepping harder on the gas pedal may not maintain the speed if the climb is too steep. However, if the driver can choose to climb gradually, he can maintain maximum speed, and that's what Mike decided to do. An hour and a half later, Mike turned inland and switched his frequency to the Santa Barbara VOR. He was about 2,000 feet high. Straight ahead of him, 50 miles away, rose the San Rafael Mountains. The day before, he'd gone around these mountains. Today, he planned to go over them to save time. And it seemed simple on the map. 15 to 20 minutes I'll save could mean the difference between dusk and darkness at the end of my trip, Mike thought. The extra daylight time could put me well into Los Angeles Basin, an area where I know the freeways and buildings as landmarks, even at night. The gentle-looking rolling San Rafael Mountains are an anomaly among California mountains. In that state, most ranges lie north to south, more or less paralleling the coast, but the San Rafaels run in an east-to-west line separating the Los Angeles Basin from Santa Barbara. The highest peak in the area, Big Pine Mountain, is a little under 7,000 feet high, but Mike wasn't going over that peak. His course would take him over a range considerably lower. How much lower, Mike couldn't tell for sure. A problem with the WAC map was that, in its lack of detail, it didn't give the elevation of that range. He could see it was lower, however. It looked as if it was less than 5,000 feet high. The range is 30 minutes away, Mike calculated. With my throttle wide open and an airspeed of 110 miles an hour and climbing 250 feet per minute, I'll have plenty of altitude to make it over that range. Keeping his eye on the rate of climb gauge, he set the trim tab, a black wheel located between the seats. When adjusted by turning, pressure was applied on the back elevator, located at the rear of the plane. This kept the plane in a nose-up attitude to maintain his 250 feet per minute climb. He glanced at the altimeter from time to time, much as a driver occasionally checks his speedometer. Not too much longer, he thought, as he leaned back in his seat. So far, so good. But there were a number of things Mike didn't know, since he was a student pilot with minimal flight experience and no ground school. For one thing, he didn't know he was flying under a constant downdraft that acted like a giant hand pushing him down. Flowing up and over the range was a steady stream of northerly winds blowing at 10 to 14 knots, the same March winds that had slowed him down the day before. Without ground school, where different types of wind conditions are taught, he was unaware of this kind of downdraft. The rate of climb instrument on which he was depending may also have been malfunctioning. As he approached the end of the horseshoe-shaped valley, he saw a pass that cut through the range, but his WAC didn't give its elevation. I'll take that pass, he decided. It's lower. I won't need to gain as much altitude that way. But as he flew through the pass, he could see only its beginning. He couldn't see where it broke through. He strained at his shoulder harness, then released it. Oh, that's better. But where does the pass break through? Better go back. No sense taking chances. His speed was more than 100 miles an hour. Mike banked to the left to make his turn, but he was farther into the pass than he realized. There's not enough room, he realized with horror as he saw the arc of his turn would intersect with a wall of rock. I can't turn tight enough. I need more space. Twirling the yoke the other way, he pointed the plane back toward the pass, but now it was too late for that too. He was trapped in a dead-end canyon with towering rock walls all around him. Beads of sweat broke out on his face like a rash. There's no way out. His flesh sizzled. The canyon was too narrow to turn around in and too high to fly over. I'm a dead man. Mike felt cold like a lump of lifeless meat. No, he refused to give up. He banked to the left as far as he could and whipped back to the right. I gotta get over the wall before it gets any steeper. The stall warning buzzer shrieked. The engine screamed. My airspeed is dropping. I'm going to stall. The wall of rock rushed toward him. Mike didn't know that he was bucking winds that were spilling over the range. He didn't know that at 5,000 feet the air was too thin for a small plane like a Cessna 150 to gain enough power to make that kind of a climb. It seemed the hot winds of hell burst over him. He couldn't breathe. Time stood still, and a deeper struggle filled his soul. It was not a struggle for life. He knew he was dead, but he saw in his life very little that was good. I'm not worthy of heaven, he anguished, even though he knew God doesn't save man because of his goodness. As a Christian, Mike never imagined he would be afraid to face death. He knew that death is but a sleep, and when he awoke, he would see his Savior's second coming. But I don't want to die. Mike wanted to pray, but he didn't have time. He said it all in a single name, Jesus! He remembers nothing else. His plane smashed into the wall of rock.
You've been listening to Plane Crash by Michael Diamond. If you're enjoying the story so far, tune in for the next chapter. And meanwhile, you can visit my YouTube channel where you'll find stories like these, Bible stories, mission stories, as well as Bible and history skits for kids and adults. See you next time.